to the Influence Factory podcast. This program is dedicated to support professionals who have a desire to develop their digital business influence so they can navigate through a fast-paced, constantly growing digital world. We invite newcomers as well as our family of business influencers to a place to play, share ideas, questions, tips, and guidance with other thought leaders around the globe. Sit back and enjoy our program with your host, Dean DeLisle, as he interviews guests. News and commentary are provided by Jackson DeLisle and Monica Hacker. Power Move lessons are provided by the Influencer Marketing Department at Social Jack. And production, editing, and distribution is provided by the Social Jack production team.
Today's show is brought to you by Planable. Planable.io gives your social media team everything they need to really move their creative process forward. It allows you to preview social media posts as they are live, real time. No more screenshots, mock-ups, spreadsheets. Your clients can review content from within the platform. And do you have anything to say about it, Monica?
It's a great platform. We've been using it now for a month. I love it. It's a game changer in the content world. I highly suggest it.
Yeah, go to Planable, Planable.io to start your free trial today. All right, today I have a special guest with us, Joe Karns from the Social Jack SEO webmaster, everything internet. Since Al Gore invented the internet and before, I know. Joe's been with us for quite some time. And Joe, you have some other talents as well, not just SEO and those type of things, but I think you and I work constantly on conversion, which means generating money off the internet, converting leads to dollars. And then also on the personal side, I know you love dogs specifically, and you love to play lead guitar. So anything else you want to add to that?
Boating, anything on the water.
Yep.
Can do some fishing.
What's your favorite fish to catch? Fresh fish.
I actually hate eating fish, so I really don't mind any kind of. I guess the bigger it is, the more exciting it is.
Right. Big game. Oh, so you like northern and walleye and.
The biggest fish I ever caught was northern. That was like 28 inches. It was like this big.
We used to do annual fishing trips right up over the border into Canada, north of us here, and then we would boundary waters a little beyond that, and then every other year we'd fly into Manitoba, and those were the monster fish, muskie and all the big fighters. But yep, I love that as well. So today we're going to dig into a little bit about SEO trends that we see, and from our perspective, we see. We help a lot of people rank either as influencers or individuals that are really wanting to rank to the top for how they're thought leaders and things like that. And then we have businesses and companies that want to rank. And pretty much the game of SEO somewhat has changed and not changed a little bit. And it's pretty much the same. If I want to be ranked at the top, or I want Forward Progress or Social Jack to be ranked, the guiding principles are pretty much the same, right?
Right. So it's a lot of people think, I need 20 pages, 100 pages on my website, but a 5-page, great content, perfectly laid out and keyword optimized, a 5-page website can rank higher than a 500-page website that's a mess.
Right.
So you don't need a ton of content. You just need enough that's really good, and using some free tools like the Yoast SEO plugin and WordPress is a great place to start, and getting a handful of good high quality backlinks pointing to your site and creating that Google business profile that points to your site is going to be a great start.
So to your point of having a lot of pages or not having a lot of pages. So I think people still think that, let's say their business takes a shift or it moves, or they have a bunch of old blog posts, but their business model changes, which means their keyword strategy changes and how people look for them might change. So do you recommend that when you're moving over to a new website, do you bring everything over or just what's the most relevant?
Yeah, it's usually not good to remove a page from the website if it's got content on it and it ranks or doesn't rank, because it might be helping the whole website rank higher and you might be killing it. It's kind of like actually canceling an old credit card you don't use instead of just leaving it empty and unused for your credit profile, because it could impact your credit score because the whole available credit goes down. So kind of the same idea. If it's something that you just totally don't do anymore, you can remove it from, visibly from the menu and stuff, and it just lives in the background somewhere. Or you can do a simple redirect where you still get some of that link juice from Google, where you can, install one of these free plugins, or I think even Yoast, the free plugin, has the redirect. It's called the 301 redirect, where you just say, hey, this isn't here anymore. Forward it to this page or forward it to my homepage. So that's another way to take old content and just repoint it to something else on your site, so Google doesn't lose that path.
Yeah, that's good. So so in the websites, it used to be that we would have to go into every page and put meta tags in there and data and keywords and things, so that Google would say, hey, Google, I'm over here and I want you to rank me to the top for this stuff. Is that what tools like Yoast and things sort of make it easier, or what does that actually do?
Yes. So as far as on-page SEO optimization, that's what you can change or what you can control that's on the page, actually.
Right.
And the Yoast SEO plugin is the best one, the most popular on the market. There's some other good ones too, but it's most common. And you simply start with, here's my keyword phrase. Here's what this page is about. And it will actually coach you through like 10 steps to optimizing what's the words are on the page to make that, as highly optimized as possible. And there's a fine line between, over optimizing or catering too much to the SEO gods and, having to be just readable and flow well. So usually you have to end up somewhere in between. And in almost every case, there's more words that need to be typed in order to keep your keyword density where it needs to be, and actually succeed in getting all the green check boxes to show up within the coaching part of the plugin.
Yeah, that's cool. So I like that. I like that they have made it easier, because especially if you're a professional just starting out, and you have your own website, or you have a business that you want to get ranked, at least they're making it a little bit easier.
Yep.
What is your thought or theory on in terms of the blogging, because WordPress started out as a blog platform and still is, really, all the pages are blog pages, if you will. But if somebody is thinking about planning for 2020 and they say, should I do one blog a week, or is this based on my keywords, how many I have, like what's your philosophy on how often we should be blogging or putting content on our website actively?
Yeah, good question. So this comes back to the quantity versus quality idea. If you have the wherewithal to do 2 or 3 posts per week or per month, or one really long good one, just do one really long good one and maybe cover each of those different topics in one. So if we were to write a blog post like the top 5 things to do in 2020, instead of doing one tip per day, 5 days in little chunks, that's not really enough for Google to latch onto. So if we did one longer post that ended up being like 900 or 1,000 words, and we had different sections, each addressing each of those tips, that would be a better way to structure it, because there'd be more content for Google to identify.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And speaking to the why it's better to make it a post, the WordPress platform does do a great job, which is why it's so popular on posts, to extract and get you to input what that metadata actually is. So not only are you putting like a good title in there that has your keyword in it and sprinkled throughout and stuff, but you can input tags in a WordPress post that you don't, or it's very difficult to do in a traditional page without going into HTML and everything. So you can put those tags in there, you can put categories in there, you can put a featured image in there, you can have an alt tag behind the featured image, and WordPress kind of does all that for you, so that when you publish that post, now Google can easily identify what that is, and that's why blog posts rank high.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And, you talk a lot about, I'm going to switch a little bit. You talk a little bit about backlinks all the time.
Yeah.
And it seems like that game is still super relevant. And there used to be all this spammy stuff where you could purchase 20,000 backlinks, but then they caught on to that, right?
Absolutely. So Google has actually been penalizing websites, delisting websites. I heard one of the big news websites like lost 20,000 search results because they were getting these backlinks from, some legitimate places, but there was this old, shady backlinks also pointing to them that someone did on their team ages ago, and Google's just getting rid of all that. So it comes back down to how high is the authority of the backlink and how relevant is it? So if there's some shady link farm that, yes, that domain has a high authority. So when you get this spam email trying to pitch you on, hey, give us $100 and we'll put you on these 5 websites that have these really high domain authorities, Google looks down on that, because if you actually go to one of those websites, you'll see that all it is backlinks. There's zero quality about that. It's just a place where they post a bazillion backlinks and try and make a business out of it still. Instead, if you have a partner, a vendor, past clients, anyone that has a high authority and relevant website that will point to your site is like getting a huge positive endorsement from that person in the physical world. So Google will see that backlink and say, wow, this website's pointing to them. And they actually use, the hyperlink is this keyword phrase saying exactly what they do, the service they provide. So now Google says, okay, high domain authority website pointing at your website. The words that make up the backlink is exactly how you want to be ranked. And this website is sort of connected to what your business does. So that's a very good backlink. And even having just a handful of those will do more good in getting all the pages of your site to rank higher than having 100 of the shady backlinks.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we do we do a lot of these SEO press releases,
right.
and realistically, I mean, it's fun and it's cool because it helps people go into the news, and people get confused sometimes because they're like, well, how come I didn't get on ABC News Chicago on television last night, and things like that. And, I think it's important to make a distinction that the power of those press releases are putting legitimate news feed backlinks from hundreds of news sites pointing back to whatever website you want to promote, right? Can you explain a little bit how that works?
Right, exactly. So there's different types of press release vendors out there. There's the ones that are, medium to high cost and put you on a handful of the biggest of the big. Some of those might be follow links, some may not. So that's just a difference of how much link juice Google will give you for having that link. But the strategy that we use is a little bit different, where the primary focus is getting those high reputation quality backlinks and less about actual humans being on those sites. Some news sites that are more or less relevant and or local than others, but getting a high quantity of quality backlinks that point to the site. And we can strategically use the right phrases so we get the contextual backlinks also pointing to the site. So what Google ends up seeing is, wow, there's all these NBC, ABC, Fox affiliate sites and other news sites all over that have very high domain authority that are all pointing to your website. So it can't be a big success if done on its own, but it is a big part of an all-encompassing SEO strategy, and it checks the boxes when it comes to needing those high authority backlinks. If you're a smaller business or any business that may not have big clients, big partners that have or are willing to have backlinks pointing to your site.
Yeah, so I know, we've been doing this, I think, for a couple of years now, and it seems like it always pays off. But, it's not like a one and done. You still want to do a series of them if you can. It depends, how many keywords you're trying to rank for. And I think people get overwhelmed and confused when, because I'll say, well, what's the top phrase you want to get found for? And they'll start listing out all these phrases. And I'm like, well, you can't afford to rank for 50 keyword phrases. And just so everybody that's listening knows, is there a difference between a keyword and a keyword phrase, really?
Yeah, just a number of words.
Yeah.
So if you are a personal injury attorney or attorney would be the keyword. And, personal injury attorney Chicago would be your keyword phrase, just because it's more than one word.
Yeah. And so for something like that, or any business that's listening in, what do you recommend in terms of number of keywords, or does that vary on budget, or what's the, what's the condition there?
Yep. So this is the same concept of regular organic SEO as far as difficulty goes. Is if you're in a very competitive space and you do business nationwide and it's not localized to a specific city, it's going to be a lot harder, just as organic SEO is. So if you are on the easy side of the spectrum where you're doing something more unique and it's localized, like say a piano tuning company in Topeka, Kansas, is going to be easier to rank for than, a Manhattan, New York City personal injury attorney.
Right.
Where they're, paying $200 a click on AdWords because it's fiercely competitive and all your competitors have deep pockets. So the more localized you can make it, the easier it's going to be.
Yeah, because it was interesting, like with Scott Nyman's firm, how he does trademarks and patents and things like that. And then all of a sudden, we actually jumped him to the top of Google, and he's a small 5-person firm. And we did a series of press releases, and all of a sudden he jumped to the top. So how do you explain that where, and when we started to look, obviously you can't bump the ads out of the way,
right.
But people know these days that if it says ad, it's an ad.
Right.
And if it's not, it's a not. But so how did his work so well?
It's a combination of things. So on our, top 3 or 5 things that play into this is not just the backlinks your website's getting, which we satisfy in part with the SEO strategic press release, but Google also looks at whether or not you have a Google My Business listing. So if you're based in Chicago and someone's typing in Chicago trademark attorney or Chicago patent attorney, it's going to look at, okay, let's look at who's on the Chicago Google map. And because I think we coached him through setting that up, that was a big part in Google connecting the dots and saying, okay, well, we see this company that's getting these good backlinks, and he's validated his company by having the Google My Business profile. And I think we also did like the citations and signals pack for him. So basically just added some other engagement and helping him get some reviews. So the more reviews you have. So just remember, at the end of the day, Google's looking at how validated and credible is this company in its likelihood of satisfying the solution of whatever the thing is that the searcher is looking for. So if Google senses, okay, this person is looking for a patent attorney or trademark attorney in Chicago, it's going to look at, okay, the map is the locality solution. The backlinks is kind of the reputation solution. Have they validated their physical location by getting the card in the mail and doing that whole thing? And do they actually do good work, which is the reputation part, which is the reviews part of it. Right. So we kind of checked all the boxes, and it's also just slightly possible that there aren't other patent attorneys that have gone through all those steps in Chicago yet, which would be somewhat difficult to believe because of Chicago's size. But I think we did enough of a comprehensive approach to get them to rank. And there's a shocking statistic in the law space in general that in those top 3 map spots, if you're in any of those top 3 map spots and you weren't before and you're in any kind of law, that is supposedly worth $1 million per year in additional revenue by being in one of those map spots if you're an attorney.
If you pick up the phone and respond to your emails. Got to put that disclaimer in there. We drive a lot of leads, and then some people just don't respond. So that's a whole nother webinar.
Right. So there's a whole industry now in Google Maps to, companies claiming they'll get you onto the map and everything. And it really is a fairly simple strategy is it's just, have you filled out the whole Maps profile, which there's actually a lot of different fields that Google's added now. You can like post in there, you can have a featured product, you can have a weekly sale, you can add more photos, different types of photos now, and even a longer about section. And in that about little paragraph, obviously you want to pack as many keywords in there, but still make it flow in a natural way so it doesn't look like you're trying to cheat.
So you mentioned Google Maps and Google My Business, but you didn't mention Google Plus because that's gone.
Right. So Google My Business and Maps are kind of the same thing now.
Okay. So I know that I know a lot about Google My Business, well, because of you and the team and Monica and the team that update those. And I was impressed with, like you said, the amount of content, because you can post content, photos in there.
Yep.
It make it real easy to update. And, you can add content in there with keywords. You can list events. I mean, it's almost become its own little SEO social media thing, right? They took the best parts of Google Plus and the parts of indexing on Google and sort of wrapped it into a shell. And it's amazing how many people still don't know that they need to fill out all of their Google My Business, right?
A lot of companies don't even claim their business. So, what Google tries to do is if it knows that a business exists at a particular location, it'll show it on there whether or not the company has figured out how to claim it.
Right.
So a business could end up on there because a business owner clicks create my business and they put the address in and they work it that way, or Google will just know it's there, put it there, and the business owner will say, yes, that's my business. And they'll click claim and they'll create a Google My Business account and validate the address from that direction.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you said Maps is bundled in with Google My Business. So is that an automatic thing, or do you have to
Well, it's still separate in that if you wanted to look up directions somewhere, you can go to pure Maps. But if you have Google My Business, it's integrated in that your business shows up on the map. So like one of the first steps when you create your business, it'll pull up Google Maps on your screen and it'll say, okay, this is exactly where we think you're talking about. Is this yes or no? And so it'll tie those coordinates within Google Maps into your Google My Business profile, because that's a huge part it's an integral part of Maps, because that's how you show up.
That makes
geo positioned.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's not just for local businesses, right? I mean, if you're national or multi.
Right.
Whatever.
So Google My Business has shifted to now enabling you to say, do you have a market area? Is it 10 miles around this location? Do you travel to other businesses to provide a service? How far would you go to provide that service? So if you're an HVAC repair company, Google wants to know, will you go 50 miles away? And they do that not just to help you, but to help you show up for the right prospects.
Yeah, right.
So that's how, if somebody's searching 50 miles away and you will only go 20 miles away, you're less likely or not going to show up in one of those map spots, regardless of how good your SEO is, simply because you're not a qualified candidate to service that person.
Yeah, that's cool. And then Jerry asks a question, can you have multiple Google My Business listings? Like if you have multiple businesses, which would be the ideal, right?
Yeah, this happens a lot. So some of the corner cutting that goes on is, some people say, well, I don't want to put my home address on there and I'm a small business. So I got this, PO box or mailbox, etc., UPS, USPS, a lot of the mailboxes type companies. And Google has figured out those addresses right away. As soon as it gets, maybe 3 people claiming that same address,
right,
it will usually block others from saying that their business exists there. And part of that is you have to have an external, a street shot view of the storefront.
Right. Yeah.
And that will almost, kill it right there too. Some of them slip through, and I think there is some human moderating of every new Google My Business account that shows up. But there's some challenge there. Now, with our location there in Chicago, obviously that's a legitimate share space kind of setup like WeWork and others. So those usually pass because Google knows that there could be multiple businesses in
that
one building.
We're physically here too.
Right.
So
right.
yeah.
So that's a little bit of a challenge, but if it's legit, it'll pass, or a human will look at it and it will pass. But in terms of having multiple locations, yes, you can have multiple locations for the same company. So we have, I think, in ours, an Indiana location for an office, and the Chicago location, which is where we actually work out of.
Right.
Think of like a Subway. One franchise owner might have 10 Subway locations, and he wants to put all the locations. So those can be set as different locations under the same parent company in Google My Business.
Yeah, that's cool. Jerry, hopefully that helps. Keep asking questions if you do have questions on these topics, though. So make sure that you claim your Google My Business. And then, Joe, what's the best way to claim it? Do you just create a Gmail
There's just
account?
a button, but there's a link right on it. So if you look up your business, or you just navigate to the part of the map where it should be, and you see it there, you can click on it. And then when it lists like in a very incomplete, basically like a shell of the whole profile, in place of one of the missing links in there will say like, is this business yours? Click here to claim it. And then it'll walk you through either logging into an existing Google account, Gmail account, where it hopes to find your Google My Business account, or you can click register and then create a Google My Business account right there.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And remember that they have to mail you the postcard in order for you to validate that you are at that address.
Okay, got it. Can we just walk through a little bit, because you mentioned like citations and signals and reviews? Can you just? Jerry asks, can I use a home address? I think you said they sort of.
You can.
Oh, you can. Okay.
So you can, but just realize
if you want everybody on the internet to know where you live.
Right. And there's lots of people who use a home address. Even when you're just looking on maps to navigate somewhere, you'll look at a suburban neighborhood and it'll be like Sally's haircutting or, whatever. So yes, it is common, but everyone is going to know that you've got a home business there, and that may be okay or it may not. And just also realize that Google will automatically show the front of your house or whatever it sees from its street view as the front of your business on that business profile. So that might be a little iffy too.
Yeah, of course. I'm always laughing because I always wonder how often they update, that stuff with that. And, they still have my old backyard picture from like 10 years ago. So I was always wondering how often
it has to do with how populated the area is.
Got it. Okay. I always wondered because I would see them on the street with the cameras driving around on the car, on cars. And then I haven't seen a bunch lately, but I don't know how often they update those maps. I'm always curious, but maybe they don't know either. Right. So reviews, citations, and signals. Let's break that down.
Reviews are king because remember, Google's number one goal is providing searchers with the highest quality results. And that's how Google started surpassing Bing and Yahoo and everything exponentially, is it found an algorithm that works the best at providing the best solution. So what could be better than looking to see what restaurant you should go to, maybe a new city that you haven't been to before, and finding one that has a 4.9 or 5-star review, and they have 1,000 people who have corroborated that quality. So it works in the other direction too, unfortunately or fortunately, is that if you've got some really bad reviews, then maybe you're bumped off one of the 3 map spots, or you don't get to show up in the map because you've got bad reviews. So as far as getting reviews, it's always better to have 5 authentic, really good ones from real past customers than hiring some company that's going to claim to get you fake reviews or all positive reviews, and to do it that way. So
so realistically, pick up the phone and tell them, I'm going to send you a link. Please leave us a review. And do they need a Gmail or Google account to leave a review?
Yes. So that's, it is a pain, but that's the important step where Google's trying to not let one person cheat and just give you 1,000 reviews. Yeah, right. Now, obviously you can create 1,000 different Gmails if you wanted to and have 1,000 different IP addresses somehow, but most people aren't going to do that. So yes, you at least need to log into some Gmail account. And if the user just for whatever reason doesn't have one, which once in a while we do run into that type of situation, they would just create one. It takes 2 minutes. and then be able to leave that review.
Got it. Okay, that seems clear.
And one important thing is that in some situations, you may legitimately have a number of clients in the same building. Like, so for example, where we are, we might have 2 or 3 or 4 clients who are in the same building who are our legitimate clients, but that still looks bad to Google because it looks like we have multiple people trying to kind of cheat where, yes, they're logged in with different Gmail accounts, but they're all coming from the same IP address somehow, or they look like they're coming from the same building. That couldn't usually happen in the real world. So what's best to do is, if you have multiple people in the same building, maybe in a high rise or something situation, just say, hey, I'm going to send this to you later on, or do this from home, or do it from anywhere else. So we have the best chances of it passing where Google sees, multiple reviews coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
So the more authentic it can look, the better.
And that makes total sense. And what are citations?
Right. So citations are other business directory type websites. So like Yellow Pages, there's Manta, there's a whole bunch of them, like 50 of them now, probably even more, where we can create, or you can create on your own, the exact matching business address, business name, phone number, and website has to match exactly as what you have it in your Google business profile. Okay. And by them being on these other websites and all pointing to your website, not only does it give you a decent backlink, but it validates through kind of third-party sources that your business exists and the location where it exists. And that's why it's important for the way that the street address shows up, the way that everything shows up is exactly the same, because that's how Google finds that and corroborates, like, okay, now we know that not only did we validate their physical address of the business through mailing them the card, but there's all these other directory websites that also say that's the business and that's where it's located.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And then the signals is simply just all-encompassing engagement by end users around that Google business profile. So if there's nobody, like if you show up on the map and there's no one that's ever clicked on directions, take me there, or no one's ever clicked on the phone number, which brought up their, call screen and they called you, if they're on a smartphone, Google starts scratching their head saying, wait a minute, why has no one engaged with
why do we even have them on the map?
What are you doing here?
Right.
But on the other hand, if there's lots of people, or at least a decently consistent number of people who are clicking on directions, clicking on the phone number, clicking on your post, because now you can post inside of Google My Business, the more engagement or signals there are to Google that you belong there and that you're providing a good solution for users, the higher you'll rank within the 3 spots and the longer you'll have staying power there.
Right.
So
okay.
You have citations, signals, reviews, all having to do with the Google My Business.
All right. So with that being said, then we have the engagement factors, which I think that covers all of them, right?
Right. So the signals is kind of how the end users are engaging with that profile.
Yeah. Okay. What about, you talk a little bit about Google's ping pong piece. What is that all about?
Right. So we touched on this a little bit earlier. That's where Google's measuring the amount of dwell time users stay on your site when they come from Google search. So if someone's searching for digital marketing companies Chicago, and we might show up and they land on the Forward Progress website, if they stay there and look around a long time, Google says, okay, we think that they found what they were looking for, and we're going to keep Forward Progress ranking high for that search phrase. But if a user gets, we show up on page 1 of results, they click on it, and people are consistently leaving right away, that tells Google that they're ping-ponging back and forth between search results, and maybe they shouldn't be ranked that high because consistently users are leaving right away when they come from search using that keyword phrase. So it's a very basic but a very validated weighting factor for Google in figuring out, is this search result providing the quality answer that we thought it was or not?
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, so with that, does it impact or have us think differently? Like when we're creating videos, when we're
Hmm.
creating blogs, when we're even making graphics, should we think differently how we use those?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's really basic. Like when someone gets to this page of your site or the home page of your site or any page of your site, are you giving them the answer that you think they're looking for easily, that they could start digesting it and digging into it? Or is it more likely you're just giving them links to all these places and you're not really providing a robust answer? One way to always have people stay longer is to provide video. So maybe in the longer blog post that we were talking about earlier would be the ideal blog post to rank high. Maybe there's an embedded YouTube video in there that helps explain part of what the answer is, right? So even if it's a 1 or 2 minute video, that's 1 or 2 minutes longer that that person could stay on that page than if there wasn't a video there. And that
Right.
would help, provide some insurance for you that the Google ping pong effect wouldn't be, a negative factor on that page.
Got it. Okay, cool. So what are some other, what are some other cool things or cool uh, tools that you like to use that are, maybe they have to do with SEO and maybe they don't. Maybe they're just cool things, so that make your job easier.
Right. The number one thing right now has been HubSpot's free edition, far and away.
Right.
So some users are using some type of CRM system to store all their contacts. Some might be using the old spreadsheet way of doing things. Some might be using a super expensive version of Salesforce. And the free version of HubSpot is the far and away best value that I've seen with any free tool in years and years and years.
Yeah. I'm impressed with how much they give you for free. I mean,
Right.
We use it with how many users and thousands of records, and yeah, it's just incredible.
Right. So all of these SaaS tools, software tools and stuff online, have had kind of the old way of thinking until the last couple of years where, well, we have this really valuable thing, and if we price it too low, people are going to think it has no value.
Right.
But have been proven time and time again by YouTube and by Facebook, started out with no ads at all. And what they were doing at the time in the beginning was just to get massive following. And they thought, well, if we can show people that we're going to provide this cool service that they're going to sort of get addicted to and really love and want to live on, and then we start putting the ads in there, then we'll have them captured already. So this freemium kind of model has really taken off, and it just took longer in the CRM space, I think, where you have Salesforce kind of just started offering kind of like a super light package, probably because they're having their lunch eaten by HubSpot.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting how it sort of changes the game and makes it better for us as users.
Right.
I think one that you recommended a while back that we still love is Airtable. We still haven't hit a limitation where we have to pay for it. So thank you.
Right, which is amazing because we use it for so many things.
Right.
So they have some pro features, kind of like how HubSpot does, which may be more or less relevant for some companies. But for the average small business, just having sort of a worksheet style view of maybe all the tasks that go into a project. We use it for sort of like project management. And we've used Basecamp in the past and some other really big ones.
Smartsheet, yeah, some of the other ones. But we had to pay for all those, and it really didn't do as much sometimes as Airtable or as easy.
Right. So you can have unlimited team members inside of Airtable on the free version. You can have unlimited, sheets or projects inside there. It's just tremendous value for it being free.
Yeah. So hopefully they don't change that anytime soon. What other tools that whenever we need something free or low cost, you always seem to find some of the good stuff out there. What are some other favorites?
Right. So there's a newer tool that a buddy of mine came out with called Shortener. It's basically like a newer link shortener that we've started using, and the real version, the free offer, is going to be coming out soon. But the reason that's unique versus using like a Bitly or something is you can take any pixel JavaScript pixel and have it fire during that redirect, which is just incredibly powerful. So there's some other shorteners that are kind of expensive that are kind of out there now. But think about all of the cool things that are now available by just copying and pasting a link. So if you have a chat bot, for example, it could be the Facebook chat bot. It could be one of these third-party ones that are really popular, like Intercom, I think is one of them. We use the little chat bot from HubSpot, which is free as part of the HubSpot free. You can shorten your link, copy and paste that little chat bot in there, and then whatever page the user ends up on, your little sales guy, your chat bot, appears magically. So imagine having that ability to post things on social media. Maybe you're sending someone to an article about social selling or anything else. You can actually direct them and not only get all the good analytics in this shortening tool about how many people clicked, where they're located, all sorts of the normal stuff, but by embedding your little chatbot script in there, you could get actual leads and close some sales on any website basically by having your little chatbot follow that link to its destination.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, and one of the favorites that you haven't mentioned, or I think, just because we used to pay a lot of money to do this back in the SQL days, is Zap.
Zapier, yeah.
Yeah, I just call it Zap and Zapier. It allows almost anything to talk to anything, doesn't it?
Right. So what's so cool is we have all these different applications and SaaS platforms out there and CRMs out there, and even Microsoft 365 and Outlook or Exchange email, and you couldn't really tie them together. So a few years ago, the rise of these connector tools became really popular, and Zapier is still the biggest, but there's actually 2 or 3 other ones now that are rising in popularity. And all they did was really use API developers and create a little connector tool to connect the most popular applications. And there's an unlimited number of combinations that you can create, the more creative you are. So if you want to say anyone who clicks on a link in any of our email campaigns from our email marketing platform, automatically create them as a contact so we know to follow up with them in our HubSpot. Or automatically send me a different email or a lead alert or add them to this Google Sheet. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the cool part. So, for instance, when we need to automatically push something into GoToWebinar, or something like that, like for a webinar, they register over here. How do we get them over here? And it just helps put all those connectors and links together. And there's still some that block it, but for the most part, there's there's thousands and thousands of canned integrations out there.
Right. And it also helps all the existing and to be invented SaaS platforms from automatically being connectable. So if you are, Lead Pages or any of these platforms, and you wanted to be able to let users say, hey, anyone who registers here or Eventbrite or whatever, put them in our email marketing drip campaign or whatever, they would have to have their developers build all the integrations that they have. So before Zapier, we've used Lead Pages for a long time. Lead Pages might have 5 things that they can connect to. But now, if they just connect it to Zapier, now the sky's the limit. You can have 500 different things happen just by creating one integration.
Yeah, that's cool. Any others pop into your head?
Oh boy.
That's okay.
I did CRM.
What do you still like for passwords?
I have a good one.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah, go.
Brave browser.
What?
So this is the coolest invention. Plus, it has to do with blockchain and Bitcoin and stuff. So it's really cool. So the CEO or the top guy at Mozilla Firefox got booted from the board 2 years ago, and he was one of the original inventors of JavaScript and everything. He has plenty of money to just retire. But instead of retiring, he thought, you know what? I'm really going to stick it to Google. I'm going to stick it to everybody. So he's created a equally, if not better, super lightweight browser that does everything Chrome can do. You can have extensions in there, everything. It's called Brave. So if you just Google Brave browser, and what it does is it blocks all ads, it blocks everything. So you get basically a built-in ad blocker, but it has replaced the whole advertising platform by having it gives you the ability to toggle on or off, the ability to see a few push notification ads that it serves instead of all the other ads on the internet. So if you toggle that switch off, you just literally, it's like having an ad blocker. You have a faster internet experience because all trackers are being blocked. And if you're on LinkedIn, for example, there's about 50 of them running in the background these days. So you could either have a faster experience or you toggle that switch on and it has its own digital currency called the BAT, stands for Basic Access Token. That's actually a very popular one already. You can even get it on Coinbase and a bunch of other stuff. So you earn these little tokens just by doing what you normally do, which is surf around the internet and accept a few advertisements, which is still like 1/10 as many as you would normally see if you used Chrome or any other browser without ad blocking.
Right.
So I've been trying it for, probably a month and a half or 2 months now. And just by using it, half the time, I've already built up, it looks like $5 of these coins, which you could go to an exchange, you could sell and actually get US dollars back just by doing what you normally do. So what they've essentially done is kind of leveled the playing field or democratized the ad environment on Google no longer having the monopoly on advertising online and tracking you. So you can block ads and earn money just by using this browser.
Wow, that's crazy. All right. Well, with that being said, we're just about out of time. Thanks again, Joe. And then for the rest of you, we'll see you climbing to the top of Google with the rest of us with some of these cool tips that you learned today. So we'll see you next year for a whole new set of programming. And I'm sure we'll have Joe back on again in the new year. So thanks again, Joe. And thanks to all of you for listening in. And this is the Influence Factory. And we'll see you later. Take care.